it's going to take a hell of a day to beat Finley.
Oh, the Dark Order of the Hideaway, no doubt, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the reasons why that was the last person I was going to put one of our low caps against because I'm not giving him pops.
No, you would never.
I mean, and that's one of the reasons why that was the last person I was going to put one of our low caps
Oh,
against because
you're
I'm not
watching
giving
you're
him
watching
pops.
this on no, you would never.
Yeah, actually, I was on the form. I just cut it off, so
Okay, good.
I don't want it to echo. Yeah.
Right.
Um,
So we're gonna give it a couple seconds. Maybe we got some people will join us, but yeah, we've got a couple things going on. There's a whole lot to unpack. THP Universe, if you're joining live, thanks for jumping on. We already see one person jumping on with Mike G, assistant captain of 2019 Grandaddy team. We're going to talk about his, this may help you from having to actually write a recap because we're going to try to recap your experience a little bit
yeah.
and go through that. But, you were on the 2015 team?
2015, yeah. J Man was our captain. Actually, JB played on that team with us. Him and JDax paired up together, Dean, and yeah, it was a solid squad. It was just one of those things where I think we all instantly you get out there and it's you all instantly click together. But it was a good team.
And then you were selected as the second assistant captain for this year's team. So, walk us through, what was that like? How did you feel about that? I mean, only 80 some odd people have ever even know what it's like to play in the Grandaddy, let alone you're the only second person. Well, Texas Hacker got to go back to. You're the only
Yeah.
third person to have gone more than once. So, what was it like? I mean, being selected, how did you feel about it?
Yeah. So when after last year, it was kind of always in the back of my mind that maybe this is something that might happen. I think my engagement since 2015 has never been anything other than just I have a different connection to the event than some of the other guys, and I think it's probably been evident with some of my posts and maybe some of my videos. There's a lot of personal stuff going on there, but the event was just I needed the event at the time it came into my life, put it that way. So it's always been one of those things where I decided that it was going to be something that it was if it was that special to me, I was just hopefully if I could spark something in somebody else, then hey, let's go with it, right? So threw my name in the ring, and luckily it was called, and there were some guys that anybody could have been picked. I think anybody could have done a good job, regardless of what their individual journey was for their particular year. Once you get involved and wrapped back into the Grandaddy, it's like it's a laser focus because one, you've been there before, the pitfalls,
Right.
and two, it's like you take a mentorship role kind of thing, right? It's like now it's my turn to the captain carries that torch a certain way, and it's his crew, it's his group, and it's his foundation. We're going to do things his way, and I'm there to be his consigliere, right? I'm there to make sure nobody messes up. I'm very we had a running joke with the team that it was throat punch Mike G because I threatened to throat punch anybody that messed it up.
Right.
So but yeah, so it was the build up to it was a little different. I didn't have to go swing a club. I didn't have to make sure that my game was on point. Um, it was more of just me kind of mentally rolling through, the highway, rolling through day one, day two, day three, trying to get the guys prepared for the fittings because those go a little bit quicker than you anticipate. And yeah, it was just kind of me and Chris from day one. We were just lock and step, and we would have conversations, and he would bring stuff up that I was going to bring up, or I would bring stuff up that he was already thinking about. So that was perfect, right? We didn't have to kind of I don't want to say lock horns or anything like that, but him and I were great. Him and I were great together, and I like I told him from day one, I said, dude, this is your team. I'm just here to make sure that from what I've seen in previous events in previous years, the captain had that dual hat and he missed out on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I
And
think it's tough, man. I think that is tough to have to do. Everything the captain's expected to do and lay down their vision and have to worry about playing and getting fit and doing or trying to enjoy the experience at the same time. So absolutely, the role of the assistant captain is a clutch, a sort of unsung hero of probably the whole thing. We've only had two, but everyone that you went with, that was on that team has had nothing but great things to say, and we saw it in the forum also. So you started segueing into my next thought, which was thoughts on Captain McLovin and this. I mean, any shout outs, anything that you want to talk about this team as it was put together and the whole that whole sort of journey.
Yeah, so with Chris and McLovin, I've met him before. We've had some interactions. We have a pretty we have a good friendship, and so there was that foundation there. So it wasn't really a lot for us to kind of get. There wasn't a like kind of feeling out period, right? We knew each other.
Right.
And I know Chris. Chris tends to worry a little bit more than he needs to. So a lot of what I wanted to do was just kind of bring him off the ledge a little bit and not let him kind of panic or you're not going to be able to control everything. Chris is an accountant. He wants to control everything. And it's one of those things where I told him from day one is like, you're going to have to kind of let some of that control go, because this is something that as fast as it's going and as fast as it's going to go, you're not going to be able to control what you want to control. So the best we can do is prepare the guys. You have your marching orders in terms of, look, this is the makeup of this team. This is what I want out of this team. If there's an issue there, let's talk about it like men. Let's get over it. Because there's, in Chris's words, we're here for the greater good. There's a bigger picture than just those 12 guys and me, number 13, being out there, right? And to a man, the guys got that vision, and I have nothing but great things to say about the guys. Like I said, I put out my little mini recap in the forum, and it was just really it was a collective, right? And I know that sounds cliche or whatever, but each and every one of those guys is on the team for a reason, and I think it showed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that they represented extremely well, and the Granddaddy's not about the competition. It sort of transcends the competition, but there's a competition component, and we're going to talk a lot about it. But
right.
Outside of that, the primary job of the Granddaddy team is to ensure the Granddaddy comes back, right? I mean, the Granddaddy's always like one team away from extinction, is the way that I've always looked at it. So, holistically speaking, this was an awesome team. This team did a great job of representing the entire community, and we didn't even have to sweat it out. They announced Grandaddy was coming back while you were out there. So that hats off to you, McLovin, Sizzle, and the rest of the guys. My favorite day of the Grandaddy was fitting day. It's probably the coolest day because hope brings eternal. You're getting a bunch of new toys. That night wraps up at Al's house, which was my highlight of I loved Al's house. I loved that entire night. Parents and Al's, etc. So did you hit anything? Walk us through what the assistant captain is doing on fitting day.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously we'll take one step back there. Luke had the genius idea to pre-nest, right? And that was and here's the thing though, it was the best thing because a handful of us went. It was low key. It wasn't packed. And you got the quick vibe of the place. We had a couple beers, a fireball shot, and we were out of there. Weren't there that long. Honestly, a lot of the drinking damage, happened at Al's.
Oh God.
Yeah. So that was fun. But fast forward to fitting day, I mean, I kind of had this grin on my face the whole time because I knew what these guys were in for. And, part of what I wanted to do was take as many videos as I could, not only for those guys, but for the forum, right? No, everybody wants to know, what does it feel like walking off that bus and seeing the Callaway ECPC Center sign, right? Everybody wants to know, what does it feel like walking through that gates and then turning that corner and boom, there's a fitting area, right? So I try to kind of put myself in the shoes of the people that are home, taking the time to watch and to follow along. And so that's why, you saw a lot of those videos come from me, because that's kind of, I wanted to take people along the journey as best I could.
Well, I mean, I know you can't talk about the gear or what you saw. I'm not going to do that to you, but Was there anything that surprised you as you watched guys get fit by some of the best fitters in the world? My fitter was named Garrett. I don't know if he was there for y'all.
Yeah.
Super, super cool guy. Knows a ton about just about fitting, obviously. And he was describing to me what was going on, what was he seeing, what was he trying to do. Is there anything that you saw during the fitting day that surprised you, or was like, damn, that's going to help that guy out a lot?
Yeah, so there was two things. One, all four of the fitters, and each fitter, Garrett. There's Garrett, John. Forget the other older gentleman's name that wears a visor. But they all have their unique style. But at the same time, it's not just a fitting; it's a mini lesson. So they want you as comfortable as possible. And for the most part, like I said in the thread, the guys I think all the guys had a great fitting. I think to each one of them at certain points they got a little squirrely, and I think that was just nerves. But once they settled down, they started hitting some numbers. TrackMan showed it, and they all got fit for the bag that I think they should have been fit for. I don't think anybody settled. And I know in previous years, because of time, because of pressure, somebody doesn't have their swing, you have guys feel like they settled into a certain shaft line or whatever it is. I think to a man, these guys, they got fit for what they needed to be fit into. And that was awesome to see. And I think that's really a testament, not only of the fitters, but of the new gear. And we'll talk about that more here in a little bit. And I can just say that, and not just because it's Callaway, but if you're going to get something new, wait till January 14th. That's all I got to say about that, because
Maverick, right, you see the Maverick.
Yeah, I mean, well, and they just just the tech story behind it alone is enough just to wait, right? That's just one part of it. But the other part is, I saw somebody like Tomcat gain 25 yards with his driver.
Yeah, and Tomcat was a higher capper. He was like the highest capper on the team, right?
He was the highest cap. He was the highest cap we had. Now, granted, he was coming from was XR16, but
a great driver, by the way. I played that driver. It was great.
But still, I mean, it's not like it was, he was still,
like the jump from the XR16 to the Epic was a big deal, and then even from the Epic to the Rogue, and then from to the Rogue Flash. So what I will say is what I saw personally, even between like the Rogue Sub-Zero that I got fit in at the Grandaddy and the Epic Flash, and I'll probably hear about this when y'all talk about the Maverick, is that it's not so much about yards gained or ball speed. The Epic Flash is a little bit higher. It's the retention of ball speed across the face is what I saw between even just those two drivers. So if they've gotten a little bit better retaining ball speed on miss hits, even with the Maverick, this is going to be a great driver for a lot of people, right?
No, I agree. And, that was my second point of, across the line, I think one of the reasons the guys didn't settle was because this stuff is so good. I mean, especially when it comes to some of the fairway woods and some of that stuff that's in there. So, back to your original question, what I was doing on fitting day was I had the sheet and I had the schedule, and I told Chris, I got this. You go have fun. Because they split them up between putting.
Yeah.
They were doing a equator and a parallel line kind of presentation, and then they were doing a fitting. So as they rotated them in and out, I made sure not only was I grabbing content and videos and all this other stuff, but I was mindful of time. And, about 5 minutes, 10 minutes before the guys needed to wrap up at each station, I was like, hey, let's go. We got to get to the next one. And I think that freed Chris up to have a great fitting.
That's what you got to do, I think. I mean, what people don't understand that have not been is that fitting day, the fitting portion of fitting day happens very quick.
Yeah.
Like if you blink and it's over, you're like, dang. 2 minutes ago.
Well, and the other part of that too is, it sounds so easy to say, but if you don't have a good swing, you're going to spend more time than you think just trying to hit a good shot.
Right. So they can get numbers to fit you.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. That's I think that's where you waste most of your time, is when you come in there and you're trying to find your swing. And that was my, rule number one to the guys. Like, look, fitting day, know your shaft family, right? Yeah. Have an idea of what shafts work and what don't. That eliminates a lot of time. So you're not tinkering and trying and doing all this stuff, right? And fit to your miss.
Yeah.
And with your irons, Same thing. Know what our if you want a graphite, you're a recoil guy, let them know. If you're a steel guy, but you can't do a KBS, money tapers or C taper lights, but you're more of a Nippon Modus or even a true temper guy, let them know. Eliminate as many variables as you can because that maximizes your fitting time.
So I hope people that go back and watch this later on, Granddaddy hopefuls, I hope they listen to that, because that is like key advice to maximize your time at the performance center. Like,
Yep.
these are some of the best fitters in the world, but you got to give them something to work with. Like, hey, these are the shafts I've played. This is what I'm looking to do. What do you think about that, etc. And then give them somewhere to start, and it goes much quicker, and it's a greater experience.
Yep, exactly.
After the fitting, of course, the bus ride, it happened. And the best part of one of the great things about the Grandaddy is, dude, they get those clubs ready to play in like 24 hours and out to the desert. They take the fitting sheets, they get them to build, bring them out to the desert. And for someone that has ordered a bunch of Callaway clubs, believe it or not, like I've always, like the last 2 sets of Apex I've ordered, they've been slightly off to, because they were custom order, like one up, one strong. None of them were right. I mean, some of them were right, but I had to get a lot of them rebent. The only time that's ever happened was my clubs I got at the Grandaddy were absolutely spot on to spec. So hats off to those people that put the shit together. But talk to us about the bus ride. It's one of the things that people talk about all the time. What was your experience? It was your second bus ride. So how did that go?
Yeah. So, I think, with the bus ride, my first time around, it was you're just in awe and you're just trying to figure out, okay, what the hell just happened for the last 6 hours, right? I mean, you get whisked away from the Callaway Performance Center, you go to HQ, you have lunch, you get a Q&A. My year, it just so happened Chip Brewer was walking through and sat down for 40 minutes and talked to us. I mean, like, where does that happen, right? So, yeah, and then right before we were leaving, we step into the to the Callaway studio there, and Oban guys are there, and they give us a brand new unreleased shaft. So my first year when I got to the bus, my head was still spinning. I was like, okay, what the hell just happened, right? So I made it a point that when I got to the bus, I wasn't no dummy. I was going straight to the back because that's where the cooler is.
Yeah.
So I went back there. It was me, Ethan, Luke, and Tony. And we just kind of set up shop back there. And I told the guys, look, when you get to the bus, find a spot and just walk around, interact, and talk to people. These guys are busy. Yeah, they're in the middle of sometimes. And a lot of the guys, they were working the whole time or trying to work the whole time. But at the same time, they want to talk to you. They want to get to know you. So, just if you're a little bit of an introvert, just kind of step out of your shell a little bit and just talk to somebody. And it was awesome to see, because at one point I looked and every single person was talking to a Callaway person. And that made me smile, because that's really what this is about. If you can make that one connection with that one member of Callaway, then you've made your Grandaddy. Because now not only are you getting insight to how they work and how they operate and who they are, but they get a little bit of insight into you. And things now are a little different. They mean a little bit more. But everybody was having fun. Everybody had a cold drink in their hand, and it went a lot quicker than I kind of was thinking it would go, because the next thing I know, we're like, all right, you got 10 minutes to shower and you get to Al's, in which somebody didn't quite make it to Al's, but that was just an accounting error.
I was going to say about the bus ride. Actually, believe it or not, I don't know. The person that I talked to most on the bus, like the person I sat next to most of the time on the bus, was Finley. Like we just sort of talked about our lives and what I did, and he's one of the coolest dudes ever. By the way, like people don't get how awesome he is, because he's got a persona, he's got a gimmick to protect.
Yeah, no, he definitely has a rep to protect, and I kid him about that. My year, I talked to a lot of people. My year, I ended up me and Pete Avery, we chopped it up pretty good, and man, that's my dog. I'll do anything for Pete, and he's just Pete's amazing, and he's actually the one that I didn't even ask for. We're there, and he was like, hey, because he knew that I collected the Odyssey coins. He had an OG No 3 Jacks coin. He goes, hey, do you have this one? I was like, no. He goes, here, it's yours now.
Sweet. That is Pete's great. Also, Pete did win his match 9-7. So
Yeah, we'll get to that one because Pete is
I love
Pete.
Pete.
Pete's sneaky good. Pete is sneaky good.
Somebody just commented duck showers to take the bus. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about losing Sizzle. It's I have to mention it. Yeah. So you're an accountant, right, Mike? You're an accountant too.
No. I'm on the cybersecurity side. I'm a forensic investigator.
Okay, but the captain's an accountant.
McLovin.
Okay. And y'all
Sizzle's an accountant.
Okay, Sizzle's an accountant too. And y'all did a head count, I'm assuming, right? Because I mean, I remember like in ours, like Cobra held the bus up, but we did a count and we're like, where's Cobra? And then we had to put a leash on him the rest of the time. How does the bus leave without Sizzle? And how long?
So
when did y'all realize y'all lost it?
So one, I'm gonna put this a little bit on Sizzle because he was ready to go. He just thought it was going to be 30 minutes later he thought it was 6:30, not 6. So he was ready to go. Okay. He was in his room. I think he was in his room watching Sports Center or something, thinking he had time to kill. So that's number one. Okay, number two, when you get in the bus, it's a little darker. The lights are out. You sit down. You're counting heads. You really don't see bodies, right?
Right.
And so we're counting heads, and we looked around, and Chris was like 13. I'm like, yeah, 13. Let's go. And I think the zoo crew was there, and then we got like maybe a little bit down the road, and Chris is like, oh, we left Sizzle, or somebody said we left Sizzle, and I was like, well, Uber to Al's house. That'll be the best Uber ride that driver ever takes, probably. But so that's how that happened. It wasn't like we did it intentionally or we were rushed. But one, we thought everybody was there just because of the when we were doing the head count, and it was just we just missed it because we were counting heads and we were counting people and we're looking for the cardigans we wore, and we thought we had it, but
which was a nice touch, by the way. Which was a nice.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That was Chris. Chris came up with that one.
I mean, the best. Do you know how he finally got to Al's? Because I know Al. That's a gated community. It's not like you're just rolling into Al's house. So I'm going to segue.
Yeah. So he did take an Uber there, and I think he had a little bit of assistance with Finley getting through where you needed to get through to get there. So and honestly, I want to say we got there, and either he was already there or he was like maybe a minute behind us. He wasn't late. Right.
Okay. Well,
so I mean, he was there.
It was hashtag find Sizzle, hashtag free Sizzle. It was hashtag save Sizzle. So I mean, y'all get to Al's house. Cardigan's nice touch, by the way. Good job, McLovin. And it's not Al life goals. Like it's just. I mean,
I mean, the whole thing is we didn't go in 2015. In 2015, we ended up we did our dinner at the Hideaway, which
so never presented. House.
No, I've never been. So what made it even special when, like, say, 2015 when we went, it was on that back patio, on that back deck, in that room where we had breakfast.
Okay.
And so the Hideaway was just right there, but it was so dark we couldn't see anything. So it was like a little that was kind of cool. But the next year, I think it was the first year they started doing Al's house. So yeah, I mean, when you walk in there, I mean, just go to the Hideaway and look at all the real estate property that's for sale, and it'll give you an idea of what we're looking at here, right? I mean, look at some of the pictures that we took for the forum. The guy's done well for himself, right? Oh, yeah. And it's not only just that, but for him to open up his home to the amount of people that he opened his home to, that dude's got a heart of gold. And the best part about it is he wants people there. He wanted, it's not like you're like twisting his arm or making him do this. He wanted to do this. So you get there, there's drinks, there's food, there's, appetizers, the box of cigars pops out. So, I mean, it's full on, have fun. You're meeting the guys that are going to be your hosts for the week, for the 2 days, that you're going to be playing with and stuff like that. So, Lay, the new Hideaway Pro is there with her 2 assistant pros. So you start kind of, in a very casual environment, just getting to know people because you're going to be with them for the next 2 days, right? So, it really helps also. I think that was awesome because if you didn't get a chance to talk to a Callaway person on the bus, now you could talk to them in a more relaxed environment, right?
I mean, at mine, I played 36 holes with Al. played the first
Yeah.
18, and then of course, you know, he was Finley's the host for the Finley match. And the best dude, Hal was so good to me, man. Like, because my singles match, I mean, I looked shell shocked according to Jay Lou, like what just happened. And Al gave me like put his arm around me after the 12th hole, and like he waved someone in, and they brought me like a crown and 7 when it was finally over. And dude, Al's great. I love Al. So let's talk about I'm gonna move on. Day one pairings that occurred at Al's house. We were live. We liked them. If you watch, I mean, if you ever get a chance to watch that full video, because we were live as they came out. We when we found out there was no alternate shot, we loved them.
Yeah, that alternate shot was always going to be the one that, you know, before we figured out the horse race and that twist that they did, alternate shot was always going to be that one where it was going to worry me a little bit because not from a ability perspective, but just from a pressure perspective, you know, and that's always, you know, seems to be the great equalizer when it comes to the Grandaddy is who can handle the pressure. Right.
Right.
And so the pairings there, you know, there's no real science behind it. You know, me and Chris got together, we looked at all the stuff. Obviously, you know, we try to take handicaps into perspective, but luckily we had a strong group of guys that I could put anybody with anybody and they would have had a great time. Right. So we were just trying to put guys together that, you know, from a handicap perspective, that they could help the other guy out. If the other guy, like with, you know, No Shanks and Clark Griswold, well, No Shanks is a 0.7 or a 1 or whatever he came in at, right? And Clark's a 20 or something like that, or 18, whatever it was. So he was getting pops. So at the same time, if Eddie had to give pops, we're trying to, maybe we can kind of counter that a little bit on some stuff and try to kind of help the guys out. So that's really what that was about, was just knowing that we had such a low handicap team. We were trying to minimize how much we were going to give up, just because you can't give the Zoo Crew much. You know that. I mean, those guys,
no,
you know, you can't give them an inch.
So it looked like what y'all tried to do a little bit, because y'all had one of the lower handicap, like 11 stout. That was the combined handicap of this team. I mean, and we haven't rolled up into the hideaway with that sort of lowish combined cap. So what we were discussing, like there was two schools of thought to what we thought y'all were going to do. Either A, y'all were going to go for a little bit of balance. And originally when I thought there was going to be alternate shot, I figured, well, they'll work their alternate shot pairings and work it back, right? Because that's usually what you would do. Or there's sort of the Canadan method of where he throws like two really Papapalooza pairings out there, and this is sort of what he did when he won the Grandaddy, and he did it. I watched him do it again and won a Morgan Cup with it, where he sort of takes these two, like groups them up, and then like there's like these two really pop heavy teams that he throws out there. I didn't know what we're gonna do. That's not the route that y'all went. Y'all went for more balance here.
With the pops. With the pops, we, you know, I thought about the pops a little bit and putting some of those guys together. You know, and I, you know, when you get out there, the pressure's real, and people, you know, I think everybody, you say you're not competitive, but when you get out to a THP event, if you're competitive, it starts to creep into you, right? It comes out, whether you try to suppress it or not, whether you try to ignore it or not. If you're a competitive person, it starts creeping in, right? So what I didn't want to do with you know, the kind of the putting two guys that are getting, you know, dots all across the card is, if one of them starts struggling, I don't want the other one to start struggling, and then all of a sudden it's just not fun, right? I didn't want them just kind of just all of a sudden, you know, they're drinking from a fire hydrant kind of thing, and they're just not having fun. So that's what I try to avoid, and that's why we try to balance them out, because I felt like even if a guy was struggling, if they saw another guy hit a couple of good shots, mentally that lets them see that it can be done, right? And that's really what that was about.
And that made sense. And then when we found out that there was no alternate shot stanza, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to work. In fact, I mean, I think I texted somebody and I was like, dude, if it's like 7-5 us, I think we'll win. So day one starts off pretty decently. Well, it was kind of hard because it depended upon like where y'all teed off from, whether or not it was they start. I mean, it was sort of weird. There's a lot of confusion going on.
Yeah, and that was that was my mistake. I didn't. I took for granted that the guys understood that I mean, well, they knew we were shotgunning it. They knew everybody wasn't going to start on one.
Right.
But I took for granted that they knew that as we turn these nines, the format turns, right. So there was a little bit of confusion there, and probably I didn't do. That's probably the only mistake, and one of the mistakes I made. Probably that was one of them where I probably should have smarten the guys up a little bit and say, hey, don't forget when you switch, you're going to the new format. You're not, you're going to have to come back and play these formats. So that being said, I think the guys settled into that first nine pretty well. Like I said,
Yeah.
I was camping out on seven.
We only got one win in that first. So if you look at the front nine, the Shamble portion on the Clive, they beat 5-1. Sizzle and Big Sky. The only point weirdest thing, the entire Grandaddy, the first 2 days, there wasn't a match halved.
No, and see, the thing about that first nine, the other two matches that were, well, really the other three that were pretty stinking close, they just, the guys were just missing putts. I mean, they were hitting shots. They were getting where they wanted to be. The weather was a bit of an equalizer, so whatever the Zoo Crew had, it kind of nullified it a little bit. And the guys they were just missing putts. They were burning edges. Because of the rain, putts were a little slower than they thought. So they weren't kind of, they were scared to kind of give it a little bit more. But honestly, we lost. We ended up 5-1 after that first kind of round. And really, it could have been, that McLovin, Ratty, Ethan, Pete match. That was a little bit closer than it seemed, and we had a chance to steal that one, and we had a chance to steal the Jason Newbar Snicks JMB match.
Yeah,
they took him to number 8. I mean, they lost it on 8 or 9 or whatever it was. So, again, a putt here or there. And we're looking at 3-3 going into the next match, right?
So the match was closed. I guess I don't even know what the score of that Tony Toulon and that No Shanks and Clark.
Yeah, I think that one. I think they ended up winning 2-1. I think it was 2-1 or 3-2 or something like that. So, but it was one of those ones where again, like where you've seen some of these events in the past where our guys are making bogey or double bogey and they're making birdie and par, right? It wasn't like that this time. It was like they were, either they were pushing with pars. At one point, I know Sky and Sizzle, were pushing with birdies. So they were playing some great golf. The guys played amazing. It's just putts weren't dropping, and that's really what it boiled down to. And that's why you saw the 5-1 difference after that first round.
Dude, so hats off to Sky and Sizzle because they play the last 4 and 3 under and win that match 2 up.
Yeah.
And it was just like it was awesome watching it because it wasn't like these matches weren't like what happened to even my team. Like Cobra and I were 4 down through 4. We were even par. They were 4 under.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are we doing? What's happening?
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, that's why I said, the Zoo Crew, they're so dangerous. And the weather was almost like a blessing in disguise because it was like a little bit of an equalizer, right? And we had chances to capitalize. But like I said, the guys battled and they did great. And like I said, I watched a lot. And they weren't missing by much. It was going to be close. And talking about Sizzle and Manning, Big Sky, even in that second round, if Lexi used her pops the last 2 holes to beat him. Otherwise, that's another point they grabbed, kind of thing, right? So obviously, revisionist history, coulda, woulda, shoulda, kind of thing. But the main point that I wanted to get across is, the guys are right there, and I think following along, and like I said, you've been there. Yeah. We've seen other team events. It could get away from you really quick, and props to these guys. They didn't let it get away from them. I mean,
they fought back.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie and No Shanks and Clark Griswold, they see Tony hold out from 180, and they're like, okay, here we go. And they could have packed it in, but they fought against it, right? So I'm proud of those guys.
So as bad as the Shamble session went from the scoreboard perspective, right?
Right.
There was a moment. There was a moment in that back nine where it looked like we were going to get out of this like 7-5 them, which would have been phenomenal after 5-1 in the morning, right? We would have been like ecstatic if you would have gone 4-2 in the afternoon. There was a moment in time where Jordan and them had come back to take the lead, and Sizzle and Big Sky were 1 up in their match going to the 6th hole. And we were like, wait a minute, this could be it. And then at the same time, the McLovin match with Ethan and Pete was tight.
Yeah. Yep.
I was like, we may go, it could flip our way. We may maybe 5-1 us in the afternoon sesh.
So I'll do you one better there. The guys, I rode around and I sat on 7 for a little bit, and I told the guys, I helped them read that putt, because 7 was a nasty putt, because not only was it breaking away from the mountain, but you also had the water right there. So it was almost like a double break. And so my main message to the guys was like, look, not only on this hole, but every single hole, the ball flattens out around the hole. If you see break, the break is there, but about 10 to 18 inches before it gets to the hole, it's going to flatten out. It's not going to move. So don't play as much break or use your speed. So that was kind of my message to them. But the second part where the guys are they settled down, they got going, they got comfortable. I mean, at one point we could have swept those matches, and that would have been huge.
The best ball portion is what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There was a lot of green on the board for a long time.
And I don't, like I said, obviously I know Lex used her pops, and just again, it's match, it's kind of the not match play, but it's the team event thing, and like I said, I saw a lot of it, and it was just small edges are being burned, putts weren't dropping. Day one, I would have liked to get out of there with 6. I think if we get out of there with 6, we'd be JB and I were chatting about that the whole time. It's like, let's just get to 6. Let's get to 6. We got to 4.
Yeah.
Honestly, I felt like we could have gotten to 6, but I mean, at the end of the day, we keep talking about it. And the competition is kind of what it's almost like it's its own worst enemy, right? It engages the form. It gets everybody rah, let's go. But at the same time, you don't want to kind of grind too much into it, because you know how beautiful that place is. You start losing perspective.
Right. And I think that's the biggest sort of misnomer, right? And the problem with the competition, because not a lot of people, there's only 80, what did I say? Like 82 people that know.
Something like that. Yeah.
So but everyone knows about competition. Everyone's probably competed, whether or not they competed in a Nassau with their regular foursome, or they're competing against par in the course. Everyone understands competition, so that's what people are drawn to. But it's not really what it's about.
And I think on that first, that first set of 9, you saw some of the nerves and what I saw, some of the competition starting to creep in, and guys are grinding a little too much. So at that point, I was just like, look, I don't care if you don't win another hole. Smile, do a 360, take a look at where you're at. You're not going to come back. You're not going to get back here probably ever. Have fun, get a blueberry lemonade, and let's go play some golf. Just have fun.
Or like,
and I think
Chaco,
something. Yeah. I mean, so, and I think, if you kind of ask the question, what was my biggest accomplishment this whole time? Yeah, I think it was the ability to settle these guys down, get them to see the bigger picture and not grind. Because it's easy to do, because your competitive juices start flowing, and it's easy to put your head down. It's easy to worry about the next shot and not pay attention to Callaway guys, not pay attention to your cart mate, or pay attention to the scenery, or even your host. I mean, hell, the Hideaway host is there with you, playing with you, and they want to have a great time.
Al, did Stu play?
Stu played. Al played. The guy that always wins the club championship played. Lars, who I played with in 2015, was there again. I mean, that's salt of the earth kind of guys. That it's just conversations that you probably won't be able to have with anybody else ever. So, selling those guys down, I was proud of that, and I think it showed there on that last 9 because they started to kind of make that turn, and they started to kind of putts were dropping, swings were happening. But more importantly, they started having fun. They loosened up and they started having fun.
So real quick, I got a question from Big Time or Nathan Webb.
Yeah.
His friends call him Big Time, I guess. I'll call him Big Time.
Yeah.
What was your plan on getting around the course? Where you hurt? Obviously, you just said 7 was a big deal, because the putt was a double breaker or it was a weird break, so you tried to get out there. Were you hitting certain teams, or you were trying to hit everyone? Or so walk us through what y'all's. I mean, I'm assuming you're in the cart with JB. They gave you a cart, and y'all were trying to maneuver around there, right?
Yeah. So I was with JB day one the whole time. It was just between the weather and the kind of the grayness of the skies, it really didn't lend itself for me to be by myself, kind of getting as much video and snapping pictures and us kind of divide and conquer kind of thing. So we stayed in the cart and we moved around pretty good. But as we moved around, I told him, I said, hey, let's hit every group, and he was telling me we need to hit every group and get some content, shoot some videos here or there. But it was really twofold, right? It was one, because I had set out from the beginning to try to take as many kind of quick snippet videos for the forum so people can get an idea of what it's about, because you can only see so many still pictures. But when you see a quick video, you kind of hear the noise in the background, see the guys, and it gives you a little bit more perspective of what's going on. So while I was doing that, I was kind of taking stock of my guys' kind of body language, what's going on, what are the scores. And so that's where, I try to kind of use the quote unquote, assistant captain thing to just settle them down, just pull them aside. If I saw somebody that really was struggling, I pull them aside and kind of, hey, let's get this train back on the rails. And not that they were like off the rails, but just give them perspective, right? And so that's really what we try to do, is as we were with each group and as we got content for the thread, I was also doing a dual role myself and just taking stock of each guy and each pairing. And if I had to kind of lift them up and talk to them, that's what I was doing.
So y'all are we're cruising around day one. So like we said, we can break down these matches all day, but we get out of that afternoon. It's 8-4.
Yep.
I mean, y'all we let just like 1 or 2 points probably slip away. It could have been 6-6 easy.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have to get on the bus. You got to get changed. You have to go eat for singles parents. I will say this: I loved y'all's team's moxie. Like, I'll give you that, y'all. It wasn't like the trash talking was at just the right level, right?
Yeah.
To where it was fun and not sort of distracting. So what was the sort of overall feel after y'all are down 8-4, but you're still in it and day 2 matters? Or do you?
Yeah, I mean,
horse race. I mean, we can get to the horse race if you want.
No, yeah, we'll get to the horse race in a minute, but just kind of real quick to that. From the beginning, I wanted this team to be as loose as possible. And it was a thing of me telling Chris is like, again, it's I'm a broken record, but it goes back to, guys, you don't know when you're going to get back to this place, right? So let's go maximize everything we can maximize, have fun, and let it be what it's going to be. Listen, if your ass can't cash a check that you're going to write, then your ass can't cash a check you're going to write. It doesn't matter. Right. The Callaway guys are going to give it to you as hard as you give it to them. Finley and Luke has his own way, and even Ethan has his own way. Everybody has their own way of quote unquote needling you or trash talking. So, let's just, and I didn't want anybody to not be who they weren't. I didn't want anybody stepping out of their own personality. But I just wanted them to feel free to do anything they needed to do to have fun. And I think it showed in the terms of the guys gelled together. They played well together. They picked each other up. And like you said, to your point, whether the result might have been inevitable, they weren't backing down.
No. They called. I mean, we went from thinking that there was going to be another boat race to, okay, well, maybe, maybe that they're in a good spot. And of course, there was less points available, so I think that actually helped us in a weird sort of way, because I don't know.
Yeah, I think it did too. Yeah.
if you had to play a third nine instead of the horse race, I mean, it could have got away from us, but it still wasn't. We were going to come back and fight another day. So I didn't do a horse race. I don't think y'all did it, y'all's.
No, we didn't. No, this is the first year.
So seems like it was a really cool time for the guys over there. That was one of the harder things to follow if you were following on the forum, though, to be honest with you. Like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, so the horse race, because of the weather and because it was cart path only, we only did it on one hole. So we started on 9, I believe, because we were going to do obviously like a normal horse race. You start on one hole and you keep progressing until you're left with one team.
Right.
So we just because of time, and when the sun goes down behind the mountains, you lose daylight really, really quick.
It gets cold.
So because of time and the weather, they went off on 9, and they were just gonna everybody, you're gonna take a tee shot, and then you were gonna play it in from there. And so whoever was eliminated after that, they went to like 70 yards, and then everybody did the 70-yard shot. And then whoever was eliminated there, they did like a chip it over the bunker shot. So they used the same hole, but they did a couple of different yardages to get down to the winning team. And honestly, that was a time, and if the weather was better, we could have videoed some of that, but that was a time where the guys they could unwind because they were getting paired with the Callaway guy. They could just relax and they could just go have some fun. And it's one of those things where it may have been like a blackout period on the forum because nobody knows what the hell's going on. But I think it was something the guys needed just to decompress. Because after day 1, you get back to the hotel and you're like, oh shit, I got to change and get to dinner. I don't have time to figure out what the hell just happened. Right. And I think the horse race was a perfect time for everybody to, go get one more drink. Let's have some fun. And that was a perfect. I think that was a perfect addition to the Grandaddy.
So y'all go to y'all go to dinner. They bring you back to the hotel. You shower. Da da da. Did you and McLovin have any discussion? I mean, y'all have a pretty quick sort of turnaround to put together the singles pairings, right?
Yeah, so we did a little bit of homework before. As I think it might have been a week or two before we even got out there when we got the handicaps from the Callaway side. We knew we had 2 rules going into singles, right? One, we weren't going to give up pops. So we were, regardless of how it shook out and regardless of who went out when they went out, McLovin had enough confidence in this team the way it was built that no matter who was in the cart on day 2, it was going to be fun, right? There wasn't any attitudes. There wasn't anything where I can't pair this guy with this guy because for whatever reason, they're not syncing up. It was none of that. So that made it easy. That made it easy for us just to free roll and say, look, whatever they throw out, we're going to throw out our guy because we had a guy for each one of their guys, And so when Finley threw out his guys and then we countered, and that's just the way that worked out, right? It was a little different, not like because normally, I throw a guy out, then you throw a guy out. So really, it was okay. Finley's throwing a guy out, and we're going to counter with our guy, and that's really what it boiled down to.
Let me ask you this. I mean, because this interests me for some reason, and the only reason is that by the time we got to singles pairings, the Grandaddy was the belt was theirs already. We were just going to go out there and play, and I get paired with. I already knew I was going to play in. So did Finley put a guy, then y'all give a guy, and then it went back to you to throw a guy, and then Finley threw a guy, or did Finley throw first every round?
So Finley threw first every round, right? We were trying to again it goes back to sportsmanship, right, kind of thing, and let's let everybody have fun on day 2, and while I would argue day 2 always matters. But from a competition perspective, day 2 mattered. So not only do we want to let the guys set up, on both sides, let both teams set themselves up to not only have fun, but to go out there and finish the job. It was more about just, hey, let's put these guys together and let's go have some fun. So we knew obviously McLovin was going to play Finley, and we knew because of all the trash talk, Luke was going to have to play Sacred Dog, right? So, and it was one of those things where everything else, like I said, Chris and I got together and we looked at these numbers and these handicaps, and there's no way I was going to pair Eddie against somebody else and he has to give up 10 pops or whatever it is, right? So we're really kind of cognizant of making sure that if we did give up pops, it was only going to be one. Like I think Eddie was a one and Tyler was a two, so Eddie gave up one pop or something like that, right? So for Tyler to get a pop, that's huge.
Yeah, that was I didn't do. We kind of liked them when. I mean, I tell you what, there was a couple matches that we thought could have gone. That we loved the no shakes versus Tyler. We loved Sizzle. We loved where y'all sent Big Sky out. We liked
Yep.
Jordan's pairing a lot. I mean, we broke them down as they were coming out. I didn't like. I mean, I didn't. They tried to get me to pick against Finley, and I wasn't going to do it. So we thought that. I tell you what, that the Beekner Tony Toulon match was way closer than what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
Tony Toulon was going to go out there and just put on a show and give Beekner credit. I mean, he made him earn it.
So I'll tell you this, that Zach and Tony, I watched a pretty good chunk of that one. He again, putts drop, and it's literally putts drop, and he wins that match. I mean, Tony was playing steady. He was playing Tony golf, right? Tony doesn't miss. But Zach was pretty damn dialed in, and he had him there for a minute. I thought he was going to take him there for a minute. The other one that was a little bit closer than it seemed, but they went dark and didn't post, was that Clark Browning match. I mean, it took him all the way down.
What was the score on that? Like, no one knew.
I don't know what the final score was. I just know when I got up to him on 17, Matt Browning made a putt and he won 2-1.
Like, we didn't even know. So, there was a lot of ones going on. Like the Tony Toulon won 2-1. Obviously now I didn't even know Clark that Browning had won 2-1. Lexi wins two up.
She was yeah.
Tyler beats No Shanks 2-1. Guy goes all the way to the end. Steven beats Big Sky 1 up, right?
So here's the thing about Big Sky. He was down 4 at one point and came roaring back.
Yeah, he won 1 with a par, and then he made 3 birdies in a row to get that match.
Exactly, yeah.
Jordan, which was a matchup that we loved against D-Navs, he got hot in the middle of it and won a bunch of holes and made that one closer. But at the end of the day, only battles. Where did he come from? He went 6-5.
Yeah, no, he got Ethan pretty good. Ethan was like, if you've never met Ethan, he's got that dry sense of humor, right? Yeah. But when I found him the hole before Dan Badolds closed him out, Ethan was like, what the hell just happened? I mean, he was just like, where did this guy come from? Because Badolds was just on, and I played. Dan lives in Katy down here with me, so I played enough golf with him that he can get wild. But man, when he's dialed in and he's on, his irons are the best part of his game. So if he's sharp with those irons, he's a tough out. And I knew he was going to be a tough out. So so yeah, I mean, like I said, and you got guys like the Luke Snicker Dog match. Snicks was a 5 or 6 handicap, but he plays, I think, at most 6,200 yards.
Yeah,
so that's the first time that he was playing 66, 6,700 or whatever it was.
Up for like what, 66.5 usually,
something like that. Yeah, something like that. So he was. I mean, Luke had him by 50 yards every tee shot.
Easy. That's tough to do. You just have to. I mean, I don't even know what that match ended up being. What was it, 4-3? I think.
It was something like that. Yeah, I think it was either 4-3 or because I think he might have closed them out on 16. So I think it was 3. It was 3-2, something like that.
So I'll give you a funny story. So I have singles day. I took off of work the day before, but singles day, my boss was in town. Okay, so I couldn't just sort of like move my schedule around to where I was watching all day. Well, my phone starts blowing up, like just blowing up. And I'm looking at it and I'm getting texts. There's an 8-6 watch. There's an 8-6 watch. And I'm like, are you watching this? And I'm like, oh God. So I slipped out of this meeting at one of the customers. I sort of went to the bathroom to respond. I was like, what's going on? And they sent me the link to where I could download the odds score on my phone, right? So yeah, McLovin was on 8-6 watch. Like Finley came up and he was Finley, and I was like, oh shit. And meanwhile, but he didn't. McLovin wins the 12th hole that I got closed out on, the par 3. He ends up winning it with a bogey. Finley makes double somehow, and then that match ends 7-6. But the key thing of the day, because at that point I was like, shit, I'm still gonna have the worst loss in the history of the Grandaddy, which is fine. But no, my man Pete wins 9-7.
Yeah.
Yes.
He so for those that have never met Pete, and Pete's the most unassuming golfer you'll ever meet, right?
Yeah.
You see him and you're like, okay, when Pete's on, he's on. And I think day one, they were a tough out, and I forget if it was that first 9 or the second 9, but him and Ethan were like 6 under at one point. I mean, him and Ethan were golfing their golf ball, right? And so I followed a little bit of that. Of that round around, and J and B, his name is James. He made 3 mistakes: 1 on 4, 1 on 7, and 1 on 10. Those 3 mistakes probably cost him a little bit of momentum, in the sense of he was playing good golf. He just, and I'll give you a scenario. I think it was on the dime. I'm trying to read back. I mean, it was 11. I think it might have been 11. No, it wasn't 11. It was 7. So Pete's a little sideways off the tee. He's on the left side. He's in this little hairy kind of lie. He's got to get over the bunker, over water, to almost a sucker pin. He sticks it to 6 feet. So I mean, and that's what James is looking at all day. I mean, that's Pete would get out of position and he'd get right back into position. So, I told James after that, I was like, look, man, Pete, this is the nicest ass kicking you're going to get, because Pete's just amazing, right? But and James, to his credit, he's a super great guy. He took it well in stride. He goes, dude, at one point he was like, look at this, man. Because I'm at the hideaway. You think I give a shit that I'm getting beat 9-7? I don't care. He goes, I can't replicate this. So I mean, he had the perfect attitude. He was amazing. And like I said, to his credit, and like I said to everyone, I mean, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. The guys were just off a fraction. Putt drops here or there, that changes momentum, and it's a different story. Do we win? I don't know, but it's a whole lot closer than what it ended up being, 13-5 or whatever. I didn't see the final score, but the guys.
We ended up losing the single session 10-2 and 18-6.
Yeah.
I don't like. I mean, everyone asked, do you think that if we're gonna win again? Someone's asking that. Yes, absolutely. It looked like a couple of these matches, even though it looks at the end, it looks like a very lopsided victory. A couple matches go our way. Like you get today 6-6, things happen. I mean, Finley's not losing there, but there could have been a couple of other things that could have broke our way. This was a really good effort. No one really quit. Everyone sort of grinded it out. We didn't mention Sizzle and 6-4. Sizzle played his golf ball, man. He deserved the MVP, obviously, although that was a little bit of delayed reaction or announcement. Because at first we didn't think there was going to be an MVP, and then all of a sudden, Sizzle.
So we were toying around with it, and again, Chris and I were talking about it, and it's one of those things where, I don't want to say like participation trophy or any of that crap, but to a man, any one of these guys could have been MVP. And that's just the character of each and every one of them and what they brought from the minute they were selected to when that final putt dropped and we're on the bus heading home, any one of those guys could have got picked, right?
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of one of those things where, you know, we picked Sizzle, and it wasn't against anybody else. It was just that, you know, we felt, you know, there was just an aura around Sizzle, and just, you know, Sizzle's, if you've never met him, but you may have, I don't know, but
I have not
you
met
know,
him. He's a fellow LSU fan, so
yeah, it's you know, our running kind of tagline was Sizzle's gonna sizzle, right? I mean, there's never a conversation he didn't like that he couldn't strike up with anybody. But I just think, you know, him getting that MVP trophy wasn't more about what his individual accomplishment was, but it was more about the collective, right? And it represented the team, and you know, he
what
lifted
about
the
the
team from a.
shoes? Can we talk about Sizzle's shoes on day 2? The day 2 shoes?
Yes. So those, I guess he had those made. They were like some blank Nike nurse shoes, and then he had somebody airbrush them. He went all OBJ on us, and they look good. They look good in person. So, you know, JB was making fun of them, but you know that JB is going to make fun of everybody's shoes. I mean, but yeah, I mean, those shoes are pretty. They're actually pretty slick, and he's got the LSU on him. He had the Mardi Gras beads, and you know, he had the Granddaddy logo. So, you know, he did it up right, and you know, like I said, he was just an embodiment of our whole team. It was in that package that we call Sizzle, and there's not going to be another one like him. And I'm just damn glad we had him on our team.
So you got any stories from the nest? Because that's one of the best. We were live taking questions while y'all were at the nest, because we knew sort of usually traffic from the team's gonna sort of like dip, right? I mean,
yeah.
And so we took that. We were walking through the day 2 pairings while y'all at the nest. Anything you can share? I mean, I'm sure you saw the clown. I'm sure y'all.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, I think I posted it today. You know, the nest is one of those crazy experiences that, you know, when you get there, you expect more, and then you get there and it's way more condensed and compact area than you even envisioned in your head. Yeah, the clowns out there, and you know, the average age in there is probably 50 something years old, yet they got a door guy carding everybody that walks through. You know, and so it's just, you walk in there and you got the guy on the piano that, God, looks like he lives there. I mean, obviously he's been there year after year after year, and he's playing all these songs, and you know, it's just it was a surreal experience. And I think, you know, it's one of those things, there's really no crazy stories. I think obviously everybody kind of had fun. You know, Luke was there, and he was the Pied Piper of the nest, and everybody got a drink, everybody got a fireball shot. And you know, I told my guys, like, look, man, enjoy it, but be an adult about it. Know your limit. Know your limit, and then you know, go from there. Because, you know, we had a running joke, first Uber out, right? I'm going to be the first Uber out of the nest. And there was a couple of guys that they had, you know, they drank a little bit. You guys saw the margaritas at dinner, and
Dude,
they drank a little bit,
like even way more than our teams. Like dinner drinking, now we like crushed the nest, because we weren't the kind, you know, it didn't really matter what we scored the next day, right? So I mean,
right, yeah.
We may got boat raced that day, but we weren't losing that night. Okay, that wasn't happening.
No, for sure. And it was one of those things where I think the handful of us that went the night before, we had a little bit of an idea what was going on. So you know, I think the nest, for everything that it was boiled out to be, I think everybody took it in for what they could take it in, and those that decided to kind of hang out and drink a little bit more, and you know, kind of you know, chat with the zoo crew did. I think Sizzle and Pete shut it down. They were the last Uber out, which is shocking, because if anybody knows Pete, you wouldn't expect that.
I would expect nothing less than my man Sizzle to close the place down. The guy from New Orleans, of course, he's going to close the place down. Man.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, no crazy stories. I think everybody had fun. You know, it was just, again, it's hard to describe, because unless you go there, unless you understand what the nest is about. You know, if you're ever there on vacation, just stroll in there on a Wednesday night, and you'll understand what all the stories are about.
So I guess we'll move on to I mean, we'll start fielding some questions, but you got any
Yeah.
advice for the next guy? Like, I mean, you did such a great job. The Granddaddy's come, dude. I don't think people understand. Even when you get on the team, it's a lot of pressure. And you could probably feel it. It's a lot of pressure because this event's so special to everyone that's been. Okay, it's a special event for the
Yeah.
community. Um, you don't know, you don't want to be the team that screws this up where you don't have a future generation that follows. Um,
Yep.
so it is coming back. Maybe it won't be 12. I mean, I think they're hinting that maybe there'll be less participants, but it still comes back. And I think there will be an assistant captain. I believe that's what I heard. So, what advice would you give any of the 80 some of us that could be the assistant captain? Because I thought you did a really good job.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, so my whole thing is from day one, as an assistant captain, I kind of I wanted to be mindful of I was an assistant captain, right? And this is Chris's team, not my team, right? And Chris will be the first one to tell you, "Oh, you're part of the team," and yeah, and I get it, I'm part of the team, but as a former alum and as somebody who's been there before, I wanted to kind of detach a little bit and be there to guide them, but at the same time, let them experience it, right? I didn't want to throw bias into the equation. I wanted them to experience everything for the first time, fresh, um, organically, if you will, and it'll be one of those things where it's their experience, not their experience through my eyes, right? So I try to take myself away from that a little bit and just kind of proud papa in the background, just kind of sitting there and just watch the guys go have fun, right? So um, to the next guy, excuse me, to the next guy, I would just say, just be mindful of that, right? It's easy to get wrapped up in it because we've been there before. We're excited. We're going back. We have an idea what's going on. But also be mindful that you got 12 guys, 10 guys, 8 guys, whatever the number is. They've never been there,
Yeah.
right? So, let them experience it in their own way. Understand your team personalities, understand dynamics, and just encourage the guys to be themselves as much as they can. I mean, that's really the big thing. The other part of it is, just be there for your captain. Take as much off his plate as you can because he deserves to be a participant as much as the other guys. I think some of the other captains, they get wrapped up in the captain duties, and they miss a lot. So that was my other thing. I wanted Chris to have some fun. I wanted Chris to experience it and to do things, and not only to be a Granddaddy captain, but also be a Granddaddy participant. So those two things I think are big. And then the other thing is just find your way to engage the forum, right? You've been behind the computer screen enough times to know that there's certain times that you wish you would know what was going on out there. So and that's what I try to do with the videos. That's what I try to do with the updates. And that's what I try to do with the little things here and there is, if I'm at a computer screen trying to follow this event along, what do I want to see? And that's what I put out there.
Right. And I think people don't understand how quick that thread moves when you're playing. Out there live. So I know we got some people watching. I'll open the floor for questions. I got one more sort of low key thing toward at the end. Is there anything that I asked
Sure.
you that I have not asked you that you wanted me to ask you?
No, I mean, I think, at the end of the day, and I think the forum has an idea of just how quickly this thing moves, right? And so, if anybody's question didn't get answered or somebody just kind of didn't get the full picture, it wasn't done on purpose. There's just so much going on. And like I told the guys, you got to be selfish a little bit, right? You got to kind of take the experience in for yourself. And I think that's where I tried to kind of pick up the slack and update and do what I wanted to do, for the guys, because like you said, it just moves fast. So I think as long as the whole community understands that it's moving so quickly and these guys are trying to do as much as they can, but at the same time play some competitive golf and have fun, right? So it's a lot to ask in a compressed time. And if you've been to a THP event, whether it's the Hogan event you were at, whether
Yeah.
it's the Morgan Cup, there are certain events where it'll ratchet up a little bit, right? The
Mhm.
intensity ratchets up a little bit.
THP
So,
Championship, where it's
THP
really hard.
Championship.
It's really, you're grinding this out. You're playing alternate shot. It's really hard to update whoever's live scoring.
Exactly. And so, and like I said, the other part of that equation is I didn't want the guys to lose themselves in the grinding and the updating and miss the palm trees and the sunshine, right? So I mean that was the biggest thing.
So we do have a question live. What would Mike do differently if he could?
I'm not sure I do anything differently. I'm not one to kind of want to kind of go back and fix anything. I think everything happened the way it was supposed to go down. Maybe look over the kind of that first day and tell the guys, hey, kind of be mindful. You're going to switch nines. You're going to go from a best ball to a shamble to a best ball kind of thing. I think there was a little bit of confusion there, not only from the scoring aspect, but just from the guys themselves. So if I made a mistake, I think that's probably one of the bigger mistakes I made. I may have done the guys a little bit of a disservice there. So I kind of take that a little bit personally. But honestly, man, I set out to make sure this event came back, and it did. And so when I was at Al's house and they announced the event was coming back, a big sigh of relief came over me, and I knew the next 2 days I was just going to be able to go hang out and have some fun.
You're on a free roll at that point, right? I mean, because
exactly, yeah,
that was you and that team's primary job.
Yeah, and that's what I told the guys at Al's. I was like, look, man, hey, we're playing with house money. Let's just go have fun.
Nate, big time wants to know: was it a different vibe without Harry, AJ, Chad, and Velardo there? The changes in the Zuki, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was a different vibe at all. I think while those three guys were kind of, they had their own important personality and important part of the Zoo crew. I think the way Finley put that team together and the personalities and the event and the experience, were those guys missed? Sure, yeah, they're missed just because the history with the event and the history with THP and stuff that they do, right? But I don't think they were missed in the sense of that it took anything away from the event. It didn't detract from the event. It didn't make us walk away saying, "Oh, damn, I wish those guys were there. We didn't have a great time," right? I mean, granted, it's the Grandaddy. How can you walk away saying that? But to my point is, Callaway didn't skip a beat, right? They're amazing. Their hospitality was top notch. Every single guy walked away from there in complete awe of that organization and how they run their business and how they truly care about us as people, not just golfers. So I don't think it mattered at all.
All right, that was the last. I had one more thing. I think one of the things that people have never been. So like so there is a Grandaddy depression, post Grandaddy depression happens. And people don't get it. Like, so like you go, it depends on what contest you win or whatever. And it's probably maybe a little bit different for the last person in. But like this entire year is built up and then culminated in this moment. And then the moment ends, no matter how great it is. And it's very hard, so like, for you guys out there that are peppering these guys with questions, just remember that it's taken them a while to decompress from this. And there's a little bit of I would call it like sort of the post Grandaddy blues. I don't know if you felt that way too. But give them a moment to decompress, and then they'll be able to talk about the equipment and all the cool stuff that they got to hit out there. So I kind of wanted to give that PSA.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is something that flies under the radar is the NDA, right? And how important it is to Callaway and to THP. You'll see USGA pictures floating around and black and white pictures floating around and guys wondering, okay, why can't we talk about it now? It's on the USGA conforming list or something like that, right? So you'll see these snippets pop out here and there, but it's a serious undertaking to kind of make sure we adhere to that NDA. And if anybody's been around THP long enough, they know how serious JB takes embargo dates, right? So and so that's one thing, right? Understand that while the guys, trust me, they're chomping at the bit wanting to talk about this stuff. They just can't. So that's one thing. And I think, like you said, man, the blues are real. I think for me this time, they weren't as bad because I felt like I had a little bit of closure this time versus 2015, where I think 2015 I let it get away from me a little bit, and I grinded a little too much on the golf, and I kind of missed the bigger picture, and that was my biggest regret. So this time around, I allowed myself to walk away there emotionally invested in the event. I mean, I joke about it with Clayton, Kevin, and some of the other guys. I mean, that G is like a family crest, right? It means more than 4 days of free golf and free gear. So
Right.
being able to emotionally kind of say goodbye the right way, if that makes sense, that was big for me. So I think that helped me not have those blues, and then I don't have to come back home like you guys did, and you get to stare at a bag of new gear you can't talk about. That's part of the booze, right? You got all this shiny new stuff. You can't tell anybody about it.
You can't. You have to redact everything. Speaking of that, I know that you can't say anything. You signed the non-disclosure, but out of all the stuff that you saw, what is the one thing that you can't wait to sort of go by?
The fairway woods.
Oh, that is a very wasn't
Yeah.
expecting that. I was not
Yeah.
expecting.
I tell everybody this. Look, I mean, every OEM's making quality product. But Callaway's managed to move that needle a little bit more when you thought it couldn't be moved, right?
Mhm.
The iron lineup's phenomenal. The driver lineup's phenomenal. But what they're doing with the fairway woods is pretty stinking special.
Wow.
And as somebody who has transitioned into fairway woods because the footprint of a hybrid has gotten too small for me, and it's just the confidence isn't there with the hybrid. The heaven wood, the 3 wood, the 5 wood. Those are my quote
They have a
unquote hybrid
divine nine.
replacements.
There's a divine nine of
Uh,
wood out there.
I honestly, I don't know if I saw one out there. I'm not sure
Really?
if I did or didn't.
I think the
Yeah.
Rose one had a nine wood in it. I think I hit it when I was there. Anyway, they had another another question. Did you like the? I mean, we talked about the horse race earlier. Did you like it? Do you think it needs to stay? Would you have rather seen like Pinehurst or alternate shot in there? Even though I don't
No,
think.
I think the horse race. I think the horse race was an amazing concept, and whoever came up with the horse race and decided to throw it in there, just hey, my props to you, because we talked about how day one ends, and as a participant, you're back at the hotel. You got to get ready. You got to get on the bus. You got to go to dinner. The horse race allows you just to stop, decompress, and just have a little bit of fun before because it's going so fast. So
Yeah,
it allows you to stop and have a little bit of fun. The music's playing. You got, I don't know, if I'm remember correctly, 40 some odd people around one tee box. You got the Zoo Crew guys picking out a THP name, and you're high fiving. All right, let's go do this. And then you got okay, do you want to take the tee shot? Do I take the tee shot? So there's so much banter, there's so much camaraderie, and there's so much fun going on in the horse race that that helps the guys. I think on both sides, it helps both sides decompress and just go have some fun.
that's that. And what people don't understand is that it's sort of that break is sort of needed.
Yeah, it is. It really is needed because it's going so fast, and you don't get downtime.
Mm-mm. You don't, and it's an exhausting week. It really is. I mean, everyone's like, "Yeah, okay, cry me a river." You got a bag full of clubs and got to play in
Yeah,
Paris.
exactly. Yeah.
I get it. I understand that. It is an exhausting week, though. So let's close the show here. Any closing thoughts? Anything that you want to leave? Maybe that you had in your notes that we didn't talk about. I thought we covered this pretty well in the last hour and 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where first, thank you for you and the community who continues to kind of follow us along and takes time out of their day to do that, right? I mean, that's humbling for us and for the team, and it's greatly appreciated. And the team really, truly is grateful for the support that you guys give. You have no idea how much those encouraging little, one-off post in the thread mean, right? I mean, it truly keeps the guys going, and it truly makes them feel a little bit better about what's going on. So, and to anybody that, that's thinking about it or doesn't understand it, shoot me a PM, shoot you a PM, shoot an alum a PM. We'll talk your ear off. Don't worry about it. We'll let you know everything that's awesome about this event. Throw your name in that hat and get picked because, while I have a certain emotional connection to this event a little bit differently than other people, if you allow it, it can help you. It can help you kind of see the bigger picture of life. Because the Callaway guys and girls, they're top notch. They want you to be the best you can be. And oh, by the way, here's some awesome gear to go play golf with, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's true and it's from the heart. They want you to have fun. And man, it's like I said, it's just it's hard to put into one little kind of container. I mean, it's a lot of different things. And until you experience it, I know it sounds cliche, but until you experience it, you won't understand it.
I totally agree, dude. Mike, I appreciate you jumping on. We had we get the Cult of Six. This is unusual numbering. Cult of Six out there. We love you. And then, like the people that watch this later on, I think that we did a really good job of recapping the entire experience. Thanks to Mike, thanks to McLovin, thanks to that entire 2019 team. Y'all kicked ass. Y'all represented the community well. You repped the G. And I can't wait to see see you at another event or see you down the ride. If you ever come to Nashville, let's go play, man. We'll talk everyone's ear off about the Grandaddy and the greatness of that event. So,
no, yeah, it sounds good, and thank everybody who's going to take the time to watch this video. It's really truly appreciated.
Thanks, guys, and y'all have a great one. Okay.
All right.